You are watching the USA Network. The USA Network and Diamond P Sports present from the National Hot Rod Association Championship Drag Racing. The 1986 Summer Nationals from Englishtown, New Jersey. Speeds in excess of 270 miles an hour. Covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 6 seconds. Drag racing from the NHRA. It was from this point on Christmas night, 1776, that George Washington and his men crossed the Delaware River into New Jersey, surprising an unsuspecting British garrison. 30 years earlier, the great Ivy League tradition of the East was continued with the founding of the College of New Jersey, later renamed Princeton. Nearby can be found the home of Richard Stockton, signer of the Declaration of Independence. This home, considered the most historic in the state, was the site of the victory celebration after the signing of the Treaty of Paris, ending the American Revolution. Throughout the Garden State, one can find hundreds of carefully cared for reminders of our nation's heritage, such as this beautifully restored home owned by Mr. and Mrs. Marvin Keeter of Englishtown. And once a year, the NHRA visits this area with its own brand of history-making performance. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and over 800 race cars have jammed into Raceway Park, competing for nearly $800,000 in prize money in this year's edition of the Summer Nationals. The performance, in a word, has been incredible. How much so? Let's find out from my working partner, Steve Evans. Steve?
David, never in the history of NHRA Championship drag racing have the national records in all three professional categories been eclipsed at the same race until here at the Summer Nationals. Despite threatening weather on and off all weekend, even during qualifying, the onslaught began with Bob Glidden. You'll recall that Glidden survived a terrible crash in Atlanta just 2 months ago. A faulty parachute caused the car to turn left at over 180 miles per hour. It impacted the guardrail and rolled 6 1/2 times. Glidden came here with a brand new Ford Thunderbird Pro Stocker, obviously recovered mentally and mechanically, and promptly broke his own national record at 7.44 seconds. He then went out and did exactly that same elapsed time again, backing up within the required 1%. I talked to him about that feat. Were you saying to yourself, oh boy, this is it?
I knew that it was quicker than the record because we had equaled, or actually ran 3 1,000s quicker than the record the run before.
Do you feel it in the seat of your pants when you're on a good one like that?
Absolutely, and that was a good one.
Pro Stock was only the beginning. Next, it was Mark Oswald in the spotlight in the Candies and Used AA Fuel Funny Car. Mark bettered Kenny Bernstein's existing national record at 5.56 seconds, but Bernstein's name will remain in the book until Oswald can perform the required 1% backup. I talked to him. He seemed confident he could do that. Anything you did different to achieve that elapsed time?
No, not really. You know, the car's been running strong. We've been having a little trouble getting it down the racetrack, so we thought we went at it kind of easy, actually, but we sat on the starting line a little longer than we expected to, and it had pretty much heat in it, and it ran awful good.
That could have helped you.
Yeah, it seems like it did.
The big question, can you back it up, the 1%?
Oh, I think so.
So much for Pro Stock and Funny Car. What about the top fuel dragsters? Well, Big Daddy Don Garlits accomplished his longtime goal of setting the national speed record at over 270 miles an hour. It ended up at 271 miles an hour, backed up in the books. In the process, he recorded the quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing at 5.34 seconds. How badly did Big Daddy want to back that up? Watch this.
With the touch of a true master of his craft, Garlits regained control and drove the car through the cloud of tire smoke back toward the starting line. The streamlined dragster came through the crash in remarkably good condition, considering the potential for damage. Garlitz calmly went about the task of shutting down the engine, unbuckled his safety belts, and climbed from the cockpit, giving the cheering fans a victory salute. The NHRA safety safari was right on the spot, but unneeded. The 54-year-old Garlitz was uninjured. In slow-motion replay, the accident is even more incredible. Rarely do you see a wheel stand carried to its ultimate conclusion, that of turning over backwards, but it happened to Garlitz. As the car went faster, the front end climbed even higher. From another angle, you can see Garlitz's problems started the moment he began his run. The small front wheels left the ground almost instantly, touching down only once or twice as the car accelerated rapidly. The aerodynamic nose piece cupped the wind, raising the car till it eventually reached perpendicular, then over on the rear wing. It rotated 180 degrees in a ballet-like pirouette and slammed back to the pavement. The engine still delivering power, the rear slicks trying to move the car forward, thereby halting the backward slide. Garlitz finally hit the brakes, and the car stopped, concluding the final chapter of one of the most bizarre incidents we have ever seen.
Big Daddy, you okay?
I'm just fine. My feelings is hurt is all.
And the world's quickest and fastest dragster took a bad hit, too.
Yeah, it turned over backwards.
You've had some harrowing experiences, but that was an unusual one.
It was very unusual. It, you know, it just, I knew it was gone. It got so high, and then it wouldn't come back. You know, I backed out of it early, but it didn't make any difference. It was accelerating too hard, and even though the throttle was off and everything, it didn't make any difference. It caught wind underneath it.
Any chance of repairing this car?
No, this car can't race at this event. I'm not that crazy.
Garlitz taking it all in stride, just another first in his long career. The 1986 Summer Nationals is being brought to you by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. Dan Pastorini is ready for round 2 action in Top Fuel. We'll be right back to the Budweiser Summer Nationals. Back at Raceway Park near Englishtown, New Jersey, the Budweiser Summer Nationals, round number 2 of Top Fuel Eliminator. This is Dick LaHaye. LaHaye crossing the starting line, smoking the tires as his competition. Dan Pastorini comes up to do his burnout. Pastorini, the former NFL quarterback, switching to professional drag racing with style. In just his second season of competition, Pastorini has already won his first national event title, that coming at the Southern Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. Dick LaHaye won his first ever NHRA title on this racetrack back in 1980 when he won the Summer Nationals crown. His daughter, Kim LaHaye, serving as the crew chief on this 2,500 horsepower monster. Both cars creeping towards the starting beams. Those are the light beams across the starting line, indicating the car is properly positioned and waiting for the green light. LaHaye in the far lane, Pastorini in the near lane. A slight advantage to LaHaye, and up in smoke goes Pastorini. His parachute has fallen out, and LaHaye streaks across the finish line. His daughter Kim showing the elation of the moment at a 5.40 second elapsed time. That's the quickest time in eliminations thus far. Let's see what happened to Dan Pastorini. As the green light came on the Christmas tree, LaHaye had an ever so slight advantage off the starting line, but it was almost instant tire smoke for Pastorini. The vibrations of the car shaking the parachute out, and Pastorini had to abort the run, watching LaHaye streak on to the 5.40 elapsed time. Pastorini heads back into the pit area. His day's finished. LaHaye into the semis.
Well, you'll seldom see it done any better than that, Dick. A 5.40.
Oh, thank God. I guess we made the right move on that baby, didn't we?
No, 100th quicker. That's a national record.
I know, and we've been, knowing that we can touch this record and so forth, and I'd sure like to do it just for Kim and all the folks and everything.
Everybody's been talking about Garlitz and Glenn, and here you come.
Well, I just been, we're kind of that little quiet lion that lays over there and tries to jump on you when you sneak by.
Boy, I hope you do it.
Thanks, Steve.
That little quiet lion is a family operation. Father Dick LaHaye and his daughter Kim LaHaye, they'll be getting ready for the semifinal round of action as our next pair of cars coming up to do the burnouts. Connie Coletta. With a two-car operation at this race, his own Top Fuel dragster, his son's funny car, is racing one of the more exotic machines in Top Fuel competition. This is the Super Streamliner of Gary Ormsby. Based on technology developed in IndyCar racing, Ormsby's body style is designed to cheat the wind, to cut through the atmosphere just a little bit quicker and give him that edge. He debuted the car earlier this year at the first race at the Winter Nationals, had some problems with it, but now it has come into his own as Gary Ormsby moved into this field in fine qualifying position in the number 4 spot. In the first round, he defeated Grant Stomps. Meantime, in round number 1, the veteran Connie Coletta defeated another great veteran of the sport, Chris the Golden Greek Karamessinis. And it was in that first round that Coletta had some problems. First, he smoked the tires against Karamessinis. Karamessinis shut it off, but see the moisture that came out of the motor, that was Coletta's problem. Caused a lot of work for the Coletta crew between rounds 1 and 2, but a complete repair to the engine was executed, and Coletta was able to make it back for this second round of competition. The other half of the Coletta racing team at this event was a Mustang-bodied funny car driven by his son, Scott Coletta. Now Scott is helping his dad get ready for the second round race against Gary Ormsby, but earlier in the first round of competition, Scott had his share of problems with the Mustang-bodied funny car. Racing against the number 2 qualifier, Kenny Bernstein, the engine exploded. The fiberglass body blowing itself into pieces as it peeled off the chassis. The fire breaking out around that racing engine. The parachute's out. Scott on the brake, steering the car to a very safe stop.
Scott Coletta stepped out of his bodiless car and marched right to the pit area without speaking to anyone. I guess disgusted, to say the least.
Yeah, disgusted and wonder how long it's going to be before I get it back together. That's my biggest worry now.
That's the first time that's happened to you.
Yeah, hopefully the last.
And I'm sure Scott never wants to see that fire again. This is the man his dad is racing. This is the Super Streamliner of Gary Ormsby. Ormsby finished 5th in the world last season. He won his one and only NHRA National Event title back in 1984 when he took the Winter Nationals crown. Coletta finished 3rd in the world last year and has 1 win to his credit thus far this season, the Spring Nationals. But it looks like his day may be done as Ormsby heads to the finish line, and Ormsby wins with a 5.53 second elapsed time, 259 miles an hour, as Coletta coasts on through to take the early turnoff, not even needing a parachute to bring the car to a halt after the tires lost traction and began to smoke. Preparing for his burnout, this is Gary Beck, driving for his team owner, Larry Miner. The choice of lanes in this race went to Joe Amato, and he picked the lane furthest from the camera. Amato earned the right to make that choice by having the lower elapsed time of these 2 cars in the first round of competition. As you can see, Amato is using one of the full canopies over the roll cage. That innovation, pioneered by Don Garlitz, being used by many racers to cut down on the noise and allow them better concentration. Let's go to Steve Evans.
Well, for Gary Ormsby, a 5.53 will put him in the semifinal round. Gary, good job.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, it fell off a little bit out there in the middle, it seemed like to me. Left pretty good, but I think it got loose on me out there a little bit.
A little bit of bad news for you. You're going to race Dick LaHaye, who just ran a 5.40.
Yeah, I saw that. I watched it from the line.
Steve, it doesn't seem to bother Ormsby much when he watched Dick LaHaye disappear down that racetrack. Back on the starting line, Gary Beck, who was a world champion in 1983 and also way back in 1974, finished in the 7th spot in the world points chase last year, while Joe Amato finished in the number 2 position, coming off his world championship performance in 1984. Both drivers inch their cars forward into those light beams. When they are properly staged, the starting device is activated. There is a flash of yellow and then a green light. And Beck just drives away from Amato. Some possible problems for Joe Amato because Gary Beck, by multiple car lengths, advances to the semifinals, 5.63 seconds. His speed, 251 miles an hour. Amato plagued with problems at 6.08 seconds, well off the pace. This is 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn, the most recent winner on the NHRA Championship event trail, picking up the title at the Grand Nationals in Canada. His competition, Jerry Marconi. Marconi driving his first ever race. In fact, he only has about 5 runs on this car in competition. Jerry Marconi came into this field by a matter of luck. It was the misfortune of Don Garlitz in the qualifying accident, putting the #1 racer out of competition, that brought Jerry Marconi into the field. In the first round, he raced Eddie Hill, who was the #9 qualifier. Hill was well out on Marconi, but then mechanical problems set in, and Marconi won his first ever round of racing here at the Summer Nationals.
Jerry, the way your luck is going so far, maybe you ought to go down to Atlantic City. First of all, you get in the program because Garlitz crashed, and then a strange first round.
Oh, it surely was, and it's like I say, this is a whole new deal to us, and this is really about the 5th pass we've only made on the car. I just got my license 2 weeks ago, and we came out of boat racing, so Eddie Hill is another boat racer, so here we are, 2 boat racers against each other, and my luck held out.
Well, Jerry, your luck may just run out in this round, as you've got Darrell Gwynn, who's already run over 272 miles an hour at this event. Gwynn, the hottest new driver in Top Fuel racing, is in the lane nearest the camera, and he puts a tremendous hole shot on Marconi. Marconi very late off the starting line, and Gwynn with a brilliant performance as Marconi continues on, and Marconi's parachutes have not opened. The car streaking down the shutdown area, beginning to bounce as Marconi hits the brakes, and those huge rear tires acting like rubber balls. It almost turns over, and Marconi puts it into the guardrail and the fence at the end of the racetrack. His wing supports catching a tree limb as he made the turn off the racetrack, but the car stayed upright. Let's watch again as Marconi battles a bucking Bronco. You see the sparks coming off the frame rails as the car bottoms out on the asphalt. Marconi now driving on the center of the track, trying to pick the best spot. What do I do at this point, he says. The engine trying to slow the car down. He's now got all 4 wheels back on the ground, but still has a lot of speed to burn off. The car trying to make the turn, rocks up on those 2 wheels, comes back to the ground, and Marconi, heading straight for the guardrail, just nudges it. Just enough to turn him into the trees with the wing struts, and he brings the car to a halt.
Well, few drivers have ever experienced more in their very first drag race than Jerry Marconi, and here you are about 100 yards off the end of the racetrack. A little frightening.
It sure was. I don't know really what happened. We have to check. My chutes, for some reason, didn't work, and I went for the brake, and it started the thing bouncing. I knew I wasn't going to stop when it was bouncing, so I got back off it again and tried to come back on the brake easy, but it still was bouncing. And I says, well, guy, here we go. Let's start looking for a place to go, and that's what I did. I picked this grass spot here.
Any temptation to
golf ball?
Any temptation to go back to the boat after this weekend?
Not at all. That was, believe it or not, I'm not that. I mean, I was scared. You know, I respect the machine, but I think we got it under control.
Looks like you got a bright future, my friend.
I think I do, too. Thanks.
Well, Stevie's certainly not lacking in confidence. Here's the semifinal pairings. Darrell Gwynn has Gary Beck, with Gwynn having lane choice, while the other half of the field finds Dick LaHaye racing against Gary Ormsby, and Dick LaHaye has lane choice. We'll be coming right back to Raceway Park for more exciting action from the Budweiser Summer Nationals. At the Budweiser Summer Nationals, there's lots of work going on in the family pit area of Dick LaHaye. Dick and his daughter Kim doing the work on this 2,500 horsepower engine, getting it ready for the semifinals of Top Fuel Eliminator. But on the starting line, we're set for round number 2 of Funny Cars. This is John Force. Force driving the Chevrolet Cavalier-bodied car, qualified here in the number 3 spot. He is racing against Tim Gross in a rematch of the final round of this year's Winter Nationals Championships. And as you saw on Diamond B Sports, it was Tim Gross winning that event. 1 year ago here at the Summer Nationals, Tim Gross finished in the runner-up spot to Kenny Bernstein. Gross now living in Saugus, California. John Force from Yorba Linda, California, has been in the final round of an NHRA championship event 7 times, but has yet to win a race. Force in the near lane, Tim Gross in the far lane. A great start for both cars. It appears to be Force just barely pulling ahead, and at the finish line, by a little over a car length, John Force wins it 5.74 seconds. His speed over 254 miles an hour. That incredible string of runner-up finishes for John Force started on this racetrack. It was way back in 1979 that John Force finished in his first runner-up position. Now with his crew chief, Austin Coyle, regarded by many as one of the best fuel crew chiefs in the business, leading the Chi-Town Hustler to 2 world championships, John Force moves into the semifinals. A handshake with the defeated Tim Gross as the crew comes down to pick up John Force, take him back to the pits, and prepare that car for the semifinal round of racing. Tom Hoover's Corvette-bodied car doing the burnout across the starting line, laying down the tracks of rubber that provide the traction that propels these cars down the racetrack. Hoover from the state of Minnesota has over 2 decades of experience in top fuel and funny car racing. Alongside of him will be Billy Meyer from Waco, Texas, who came to this race trying out a brand new piece of technology.
The gas is for go and the brakes are for whoa, right? Well, not necessarily. For years, the better drag racing drivers have grabbed a great big handful of brakes when they felt the rear tires lose traction, rather than getting off the accelerator pedal, losing RPM, momentum, and unloading the chassis. Well, Billy Meyer has advanced that process. His funny car is the only one equipped with a button right here on the steering wheel. Now, a push of that button applies the rear brakes. Through an electronic solenoid, much like the Pro Stock drivers use to lock up the front brakes during the burnout, it is mounted right on the rear axle housing. So now Billy has far more precise control over the brakes, also doesn't have to remove one hand from the steering wheel to the brake handle, and does not take a chance of maybe inadvertently releasing the parachute.
On the starting line, Billy Meyer's got some problems. They've got the fiberglass body raised. The crewman is in, working on an injector line. It could be a possible fuel leak, but they seem to also have problems getting the car to roll. Tom Hoover is backing up. He is waiting for Billy Meyer to repair his car. The crewman says, bring the body down. It appears the injector problem is solved. Now Hoover approaches the starting line, and Billy Meyer is going to stage. Incidentally, Meyer is building a new racetrack near Dallas, Texas. It's called Texas Motorplex, and USA Sports in Diamond P will be there the last weekend in September to bring you all the action of the NHRA Chief Nationals. But right now, it's round number 2 at the Summer Nationals. Tom Hoover far lane, Billy Meyer in the near lane, and Meyer does not leave the starting line. Hoover continues on down track, trying to earn lane choice in the next round. 5.87 seconds. His speed over 252 miles an hour. But back on the starting line, it is problems for Billy Meyer. The car apparently suffering some sort of driveline failure. Meyer out of the car, taking off his helmet and fireproof sock, knowing he's going to have to wait for another day.
Well, Dave, I'm sure if Billy Meyer were down here right now, he'd like to thank this man, Tom Hoover, for being so patient on the starting line.
Yes, Billy and I talked about before the run. He's having trouble with a few guys holding him up this race. I says, no, I'll be there, Bill. So I programmed it. He had trouble, I guess, with the reverser or something. And, we got a fresh motor in the car. It's a little off yet, but we're coming around.
It's been a while since you've gone this far, the semis.
Well, that's right. It's hardball out here.
Steve, hardball it is. We just found out that it was a transmission problem on Billy Meyer's car that put him out of competition against Tom Hoover. Here is the quickest and fastest funny car in all of drag racing. The Candies and Hughes Pontiac, driven by Mark Oswald. He'll be racing the recent winner of the NHRA Cajun Nationals Championship. This is Tom McEwen. As Steve told us at the top of the show, Mark Oswald broke the elapsed time record with a run of 5.56 seconds. He is trying to back that up within 1%. On that same run, he established the fastest speed ever by a funny car at over 265 miles an hour. Oswald off the line first, and McEwen shuts the engine down. Oswald through the finish line at 5.70 seconds. Not good enough to back up the record at 255 miles an hour. But most importantly, Oswald in the Candies and Hughes car moves into the semifinals. For McEwen, his day is done. Here's the man that Oswald is trying to take the record away from. This is the reigning world champion. He is the defending Summer Nationals champion. This is Kenny Bernstein. Cars in all of drag racing, Kenny Bernstein's Ford Tempo will be matched against the Dodge Daytona, owned and tuned by Roland Leong, the Hawaiian, driven now by Johnny West. West qualified in the number 6 position. Steve?
Well, the record backup continues to elude Mark Oswald, but a fine 570 puts you in the semifinals.
Can't believe it went that quick. I had to let completely out of it once.
Yeah, it looked like it hesitated.
Yeah, I let completely out of it. You're trying to back that record up, and you know, it started shaking a little bit that time. We were fortunate to get through there.
Had you not lifted smoking tires or what?
Oh, yeah, I was getting ready to. Yeah.
You can anticipate that?
Yeah, when it starts shaking that hard, you can bet it's going to turn loose.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Steve, many people regard Mark Oswald as one of the premier drivers just for that reason, his ability to sense a problem. Here's Johnny West into his first season as the driver for Roland Leong and the Hawaiian. And this is Kenny Bernstein. He got a break in round number 1 when Scott Coletta, as we saw, exploded the engine in his funny car. Crew Chief Dale Armstrong making the final check of the injector, directing Bernstein into the proper spot, as does Roland Leong for his driver, Johnny West. It's all up to the drivers at this point, and reaction times off that starting line are crucial because many people say you got to win it at the starting line or your day is done. Both cars now set, waiting for that green light. And it's a good start, but Bernstein pulls ahead at the beginning and continues to extend that lead. And Bernstein wins it with a 5.67 second elapsed time. His speed over 254 miles an hour. Just a heartbeat or two behind at 5.85 seconds was Johnny West, but that computes into nearly 2 car lengths difference at the finish line. As we watch again, you see the instant lead built up by the Ford Tempo. Then as they approach the finish line, Bernstein continues to draw away from Johnny West, and it is nearly a 2-car length advantage when the cars cross the finish line. Kenny Bernstein comes out on top.
Well, a solid 5.67 puts away Johnny West, Kenny Bernstein, but it looked like a little flash of fire right in the lights.
Yeah, well, Dale thinks it was a clutch that went away, and I have to agree with that. I thought so inside the cockpit as I was coasting down here. A lot of noise in the back end of the engine department, and I think that's what it was.
Clutches can be as frightening as blower explosions.
Well, they can if they get real bad. Like Dale said, we had one left, and that's what it made, so, you know, we'll get a new one in there and give her a shot.
So what we saw were probably sparks from inside the magnesium bell housing?
Exactly. I'm sure the bell housing and the disc inside disintegrated, and all those sparks came out from underneath. Exactly.
Okay, thanks. The safety bell housing, however, did its job containing all of those parts and pieces.
Steve, it does mean a lot of work, though, for Kenny Bernstein and his crew as they get ready for the semifinal round against Tom Hoover, with Bernstein having lane choice. The other pair in the semifinals finds Mark Oswald, the low qualifier, still trying for the record, racing against John Force. Mark Oswald with the lane choice. We'll be coming right back to the Budweiser Summer Nationals. At the Budweiser Summer Nationals at Raceway Park near Englishtown, New Jersey, this is Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans, and we're in Kenny Bernstein's pit area, where the problem was not a clutch, but a broken header pipe that was dragging on the ground, causing all the sparks that everybody thought was a clutch problem. Over in Darrell Gwynn's top fuel pit area, the mechanical operation under the guidance of Father Jerry Gwynn, who was a world champion in his own right, winning Super Eliminator way back in '69. Steve?
We all know when to replace the tires on our passenger car. The tread wears out. It's obvious. How do you know when to replace a slick tire? Well, there really is no tried and true method. Goodyear installs a little wear depth indicator hole in every tire. Chances are, though, if you wear the tire to the bottom of that hole, you've already lost 3 races from a lack of traction. Rule of thumb these days is about 6 to 8 quarter-mile runs per set of tires. If they start to get a kind of a feathered look, then for sure it's time to replace them. So while you're out getting 50,000 miles on your new state-of-the-art radials, the drag racer is getting 1.5 miles per set of tires, and they cost $250 a piece, 17 inches wide, 36 inches high. But at the price, they're a bargain when you consider that every tire is handmade and hand x-rayed to ensure against any flaws. And talk about pride of workmanship, every tire carries the name of the man that made it. Now, what happens to these tires when they're no longer good for racing? Well, Goodyear slashes them with a knife so they can no longer be used and gives them away to the fans as souvenirs. So across America, there's a lot of game rooms that have one of these tires as a coffee table base, and there's a lot of kids in the backyard using them as swings.
And Steve, those giant slicks get quite a workout on these factory hot rods as we move into the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. This is the Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson. Johnson. It's an Oldsmobile Forenza with a 500 cubic inch Olds engine under the hood. Johnson in round number 1 defeated Jerry Ekman. In round 2, David Hutchins. Butch Leal defeated Lee Dean in the first round. In the second round, Ken Dondero fell to the onslaught of the man that won the most recent NHRA Nationals, the Grand Nationals in Montreal, Canada, the Pontiac. In the far lane is Butch Leal, and a brilliant hole shot. An advantage off the starting line by Warren Johnson. He's just flying with that Oldsmobile, and at the finish line, Warren Johnson, 7.45 seconds, very close to the record time established by Bob Glidden at a speed of over 185 miles an hour. But Warren Johnson extra sharp on the lights. Here in the near lane is the reigning world champion, driving his Ford Thunderbird, setting a new national record at this meet of 7.44 seconds elapsed time, Bob Glidden. The man with the unenviable task of racing the new record holder is Don Coons. Along with his partner, Albert Clark, they are debuting a brand new car at this event. It is an Oldsmobile Forenza, a twin to that of Warren Johnson. Out of the 3 drivers that have an opportunity to set a record at this event thus far, Bob Glidden is the only man to back up his record-setting performance. 2 cars limited to 500 cubic inches each, one an Oldsmobile, one a Ford, the factory hot rods of NHRA Pro Stock. Glidden finally into the staging beams, and the advantage goes to Don Coons. His brand new car drifting just a little bit. Glidden seems to be having problems, and an upset as Don Coons pulls off the win. His partner Albert Clark can't even believe it. In the finals of Pro Stock, it will be 2 Oldsmobile Forenzas, the first time ever that 2 team cars have gone into the final to face each other for a Pro Stock title. It'll be Don Coons against Warren Johnson. Johnson, with a tremendous performance advantage in the semifinals, will have the lane choice. As Bob Glidden gets out of his car, it was obvious something went wrong as the performance level fell off drastically.
Well, there's no such thing as invincibility in this Pro Stock class. Even with the new national record, Bob, things still go wrong.
Yes, Steve, I don't know what exactly has happened. Let the clutch out and had a terrible engine miss. I don't know if we've got a pump malfunction or a wire, an electrical box or what.
Well, all in all, this weekend you put Atlanta behind you for good.
I think so. I think we're on the right track. Thanks a lot.
In spite of that semifinal loss, Bob Glidden goes into the record book with a new ET mark. In John Force's pit area, they're getting ready for the semifinals here at the Budweiser Summer Nationals. Under threatening New Jersey skies, we're at Raceway Park near Englishtown. This is the semifinal round of Top Fuel racing in the Budweiser Summer Nationals. Here's 24-year-old Darrell Gwynn receiving a handshake from his dad, some instructions delivered by hand signals due to the engine running, and of course, the helmet and sock on Darrell's head. Across from him is 19-time national event winner Gary Beck. The winning streak for Gary Beck began back in 1972 when he won his first U.S. Nationals title. Beck's latest win came in 1985 at the World Finals, the season-ending event in Pomona, California. Gwynn in the near lane, Beck in the far lane. A great start for Gwynn. The car just locked to the ground, and through the finish line, Gwynn by a wide margin wins it as Beck shuts off early. The crew is static as they go into the finals. 5.41 seconds. His speed over 263 miles an hour. And Gwynn, the winner of the most recent event, for the second race in a row, goes into the finals. He might race this man, the one he defeated at the Grand Nationals in Canada just 2 weeks ago. This is Dick LaHaye. LaHaye in the previous round had a 5.40 second elapsed time, and that may not bode well for this driver. This is Gary Ormsby at the wheel of his streamlined dragster. His performances have been in the high 550s and 560 range, and Ormsby has got to find just an added measure of performance to take on Dick LaHaye on an even scale. Let's go to Steve.
For the second consecutive NHRA national event, young Floridian Darrell Gwynn goes into the final round. Darrell, you're going to love this elapsed time, a 5:41.
Boy, I'll tell you, we've had such a terrific 2 weeks here. We've worked our tails off. I'd like to thank everybody that's been involved with this car. and they know who they are.
That's only 200ths away from a national record.
You got it. Well, we wanted to try and get the speed record here, but we're not even worried about it. We're going to try and take advantage of Big Daddy being gone, so here we are.
You won at Montreal. Can you do it again?
I think we can.
You may have the same opponent. Dick LaHaye up there trying to join Darrell Gwynn in the final round.
Steve, if performances in the previous round are any indication, Dick LaHaye has got to be considered the favorite. He's got over a 1/10 of a second in elapsed time advantage over Gary Ormsby. But Ormsby has been in the finals of NHRA championship events 5 times in his career, so you can't just count him out. The burnouts are completed. Both cars are into the pre-stage lights, and then we'll be moving into the staging beams. And then it's up to the driver to leave on time. A red light for Gary Ormsby. He anticipated the start. He left too soon. The red light at the starting line wipes out a fine 5:49 as Dick LaHaye runs 5.48 seconds to win the race, and for the second event in a row goes into the finals. There's the red light that's caught Gary Ormsby as he left the starting line too soon. In the finals, Dick LaHaye against Darrell Gwynn, with Gwynn getting lane choice. The body coming down on the Ford Tempo-bodied car of Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein has found the consistency during eliminations that carried him to the World Championship title 1 year ago. Down at the far end of the racetrack, it's an elated Dick LaHaye. Steve?
Well, Dave, down here, Dick LaHaye came in thoroughly disgusted until I told him that Gary Ormsby had red lighted. He had absolutely no idea, and you talk about an attitude adjustment on the part of a race car driver. For the second consecutive national event, Dick LaHaye will go into the final round. I love to be a bearer of glad tidings like that. Now, if I can just get the man to take his helmet off, because I think you're going to see a great big grin on his face. Congratulations, another final.
Thank you very much, Steve. I kept thinking to myself, no, I was late. I couldn't believe it, when he red lighted. Thanks the Lord. That's all I can say.
You get another shot at Darrell Gwynn.
You got any idea what we run?
48.
48, and he ran 41.
He has lane choice.
That's fine. I run 40 flat over on the left side anyway.
Beat you by inches a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we had a heck of a race. It was the next day after a rain out, and we're going to have a heck of a race here, too.
And here comes Kim. They got a lot of work to do. Well, with this team, you never know. Sometimes they don't even take the heads off it.
Steve, the skies are threatening here at Old Bridge Township Raceway Park as Kenny Bernstein gets prepared to race Tom Hoover in the semifinals. Bernstein has been consistent in the 560s. Hoover has been in the 570s and 580s. He's got to be the underdog, knowing that Bernstein is the toughest funny car in the country today. And that's why, look at Bernstein glued to the ground while Hoover up in smoke. And it's Bernstein, another spectacular elapsed time, 5.66 seconds, a very consistent 257 miles an hour. And for the second race in a row, Bernstein's into the finals, Hoover back into the pits. Got to be happy, though, with his performance going to the semifinals at the Summer Nationals. This is John Force, 7 times a runner-up in NHRA national event competition, racing the quickest and fastest funny car in the country, still trying for that new national lapse time record. Mark Oswald at the wheel of the Candies and Hughes car.
Well, Dave, Kenny Bernstein has that consistency back that carried him to a world championship last season. Another nice 5.66.
Well, that's good. That's what it takes today. Of course, we got to see now what Oswald does for lane choice for the final, but he ran all the way that time. Dale Armstrong and the guys did a super job getting it out the back door for me, and no headers fell off, no clutch problems, so it's better.
You did your job. Do you think there's an imbalance in the lanes?
I don't really think so. I think they're pretty even. It just kind of gives you an advantage if you feel like you have the choice. If something does go bad, obviously you've got a way to go.
Confidence builder, if nothing else.
Well, it helps a lot.
Okay, let's go back to the starting line.
Steve, you note that Kenny Bernstein thinks it's going to be Mark Oswald to face him in the finals, but I'm sure this man, John Force, has something to say about that. The Chevrolet Cavalier-bodied car with Austin Coyle, the crew chief, inching forward into the staging beams. Now the Candies and Hughes car starts to roll forward, finding the light beam, indicating its stage, and it's a great start. It's Force off the starting line first, but here comes Oswald. But at the finish line, Force pulls it out by a matter of just a couple of feet. It is John Force, the winner. 5.72 seconds. His speed, 253 miles an hour. He moves into the finals. As we watch again in the replay, you see the very slight starting line advantage, only a couple of hundredths of a second. But then the Pontiac of Mark Oswald starts to pull alongside. It's even at this point. The two cars streaking towards the finish line at over 250 miles an hour. They cross that finish line, and it is John Force by just a couple of feet ahead of Mark Oswald.
Well, over the years, John Force has been critical of his own driving. But, John, you won at driving identical elapsed times. You both ran 5:72.
I don't know about the driving. I'll tell you something. I cried to Coyle for an hour about the rain. I says, don't want to hear about Chi-Town consistency. He says, you want to go for it, step on it. And I said, that's right. Them guys have whipped me the last 10 times I raced them. And I said, if I'm going out, then we're going to go out. And doggone it, if we pulled her out of the bag, huh?
Gonna get another shot at Bernstein. He beat you 2 weeks ago.
I want a shot at Bernstein. We got a good racetrack here. I can't believe that they did that here. And I ain't saying what I always say, oh, I'm going to do it this time, but I'm going to do it this time.
Steve, absolutely the best interview in all of motorsports. John Force goes over to shake hands with Mark Oswald. That sets up the funny car final. Bernstein against Force, with Kenny Bernstein, the world champion, having lane choice. National Dragster, drag racing's leading news weekly, coming at you with the inside story on America's #1 motorsport, NHRA Championship Drag Racing. It's the exotic racing excitement of the nitro-burning top fuel dragsters and the traditional hot rods. It's the behind-the-scenes action in the pits, interviews and profiles of your favorite drivers, up-to-the-minute race results from national events and local meets in your hometown. It's what National Dragster is all about. Subscribe today and get 48 issues of drag racing's leading news weekly for only $28. Plus, you'll receive membership in the National Hot Rod Association, the world's largest auto racing sanctioning body, along with a members-only t-shirt. Call us today, 1-800-541-0900, or write to NHRA, P.O. Box 150, North Hollywood, California, 91603. Remember, only $28 keeps you up on America's #1 motorsport, NHRA Championship Drag Racing. We have been telling you about the threatening weather at the Summer Nationals, and it finally hit. The rains came, causing a postponement of this race until this morning, as the finals are set to go in Pro Stock Eliminator. For the first time ever in the factory hot rod category, we have got 2 team cars. A pair of Oldsmobile Forenzas in the far lane. Don Kuntz at the wheel of the Kuntz and Clark car. Warren Johnson in the near lane. Both of them using 500 cubic inch Oldsmobile engines, and Don Kuntz has the advantage off the starting line. But it quickly is disappearing as Warren Johnson catches him and passes him right at the finish line. Johnson, 7.55 seconds. His speed over 184 miles an hour, and Oldsmobile couldn't lose in this final. WJ, your Pro Stock champion. At the start, you'll see again the advantage built up by Don Kuntz. By the time they pass the Christmas tree, Kuntz has got a couple of feet head start over Warren and Johnson. They seem to be locked together as they approach the speed trap, and then all of a sudden, it is WJ speeding ahead and taking the win by about a car length. Johnson has got to be pleased with this victory. His driving right on target, the performance of his car outstanding, and Don Kuntz and his partner Albert Clark have got to be thrilled with their brand new Oldsmobile. This is a rematch now of 2 weeks ago. They met on the starting line at San Air in Canada for the finals of the Grand Nationals. Kenny Bernstein last year had 6 victories to his credit, an all-time record for funny car racing in one season. John Force has yet to win an NHRA national event. As we heard after the semifinal round, he's confident he can do it here. Kenny Bernstein and John Force. And it is Force smoking the tires. Bernstein streaks ahead, and for the second race in a row, Kenny Bernstein wins an NHRA national event title and extends his lead in his effort to repeat as the world champion. As we watch again, Force gains the advantage the first few feet off the starting line by virtue of a hole shot. Then the car begins to smoke the tires, losing traction on those huge slicks, which allows Kenny Bernstein to take a very easy win.
Kenny, a very nice 565. Congratulations.
Oh, super. Thank you, Steve. That was a good one. Again, to the Budweiser King crew, Dale and Jeff, Jim and Charlie, and Brad, they all did their job, and that's what it takes to win races.
And a whopping speed, 259 miles an hour.
Well, she ran out the back. We finally made it to the other end under full power. That's nice to see that. Good day here at the Budweiser Summer Nationals.
Indeed, and you leave here with your lapse time record still intact, even though Mark Oswald took a good shot at it.
Well, let's do say that. Mark Oswald and Candies, they took a heck of a shot at it, but it stood, so there's another weekend coming, I'm sure.
There's your champion. John Ford has to settle for his 8th runner-up.
The buddy car champion of the Budweiser Summer Nationals, a very elated Kenny Bernstein. His crew drives up. He receives congratulations all around. Bernstein continuing to extend his lead in that World Championship points chase. Darrell Gwynn wants to add to his points total with Don Garlits out of competition. Gwynn beginning to move up on Garlits. But Dick LaHaye wants to stop that march on those World Championship points chase. This, again, a rematch of just 2 weeks ago at the Grand Nationals. At that race, Darrell Gwynn came out on top. LaHaye last to stage. And it's a great start for Darrell Gwynn. Another brilliant run for the 24-year-old Florida-based driver. And Darrell Gwynn wins his second NHRA national event in a row with an elapsed time of 5.44 seconds. His speed over 265 miles an hour. What a weekend for Darrell Gwynn. As we look in slow motion replay, you see a tremendous advantage, nearly 0.06 of a second going to Darrell Gwynn. He just drives away from Dick LaHaye at the finish line. Gwynn has a several car length lead and the victory.
In only his sophomore season in Top Fuel Racing, 3 victories this year, 2 came back-to-back. 5:45, a wonderful driving job.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to thank everybody again, once again, that's been involved with this car. They all know who they are. The crew did a hell of a job this weekend. I can't thank everybody enough. I just can't believe it.
What is your dad, Jerry? It looks like he's trying to remind you of something on the starting line.
Well, there's a couple things to remember while you're driving this car, and a lot of times when you have abstractions like what I had the other day with Garlits and stuff, it's hard to do things right. And if you get reminded the right last minute before you stage, it helps a lot of times.
Hit it hard. It looked like
Got it. Well, that's the problem. I had trouble just barely touching the throttle off the start line. He's just telling me to grit my teeth and mash that thing, so.
I think you'll have a better night's sleep tonight than you did last night.
Yes, I'm sure I will. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Our congratulations to all the winners. And remember, this Budweiser Summer National coverage, the first in a series of 6 events on USA Sports. The next one coming up Monday, August the 11th, the Mile High Nationals from Denver. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan, saying so long from Englishtown, New Jersey. The executive producer of Diamond P Sports is RVM Palish, produced and directed by John B. Mullen. The 1986 Summer Nationals have been brought to you by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Quaker State. Quaker State, the big Q, stands for quality. Always has, always will. Coverage of the 1986 NHRA Summer Nationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports.